Hello everyone, you welcome to this edition of the on Equinox Television live from our headquarters in Cameroon's economic capital, Douala. Will Maurice Kamto and Akere Muna form a coalition for the October 7, 2018 presidential election in the Republic of Cameroon? This question will be answered in the hours ahead. Discussions are going on between the two political leaders and political parties, the Cameroon Renaissance Movement and the Popular Front for Development political parties. And ahead of the presidential election come Sunday, Cameroonians who had not yet collected their voters card are rushing to Lekam branch offices to get their voters card in order to exercise their civic duty come Sunday. Stay with us. Thanks for joining us on this edition of the news on Equinox Television. I am Bablet Jonathan. Hours to the 7th of October 2018 presidential election in the Republic of Cameroon, the country's Minister of Territorial Administration, Tanganji Paul, reminds Cameroonians and all other persons residing in the Cameroonian territory of measures that have been taken by the government and which are prescribed by the law of the land during elections. The Minister of Territorial Administration has issued a release indicating that the borders of Cameroon will be closed as from the 6th right up to the 7th of October. That is, the borders will be reopened after the presidential election in the country, and the movement of persons as well as commercial activities will be put on hold on the 7th of October. That will be Sunday during the presidential election. The Minister of Territorial Administration thereby reminds all Cameroonians and all other persons living in Cameroon that it is strictly forbidden and of course impossible, because the borders will be closed, to move out of Cameroon as from tomorrow, the 6th of October, right up to the 7th, and after the presidential election, the borders will be reopened. Now we continue with other news, notably to indicate that the Uri Prefect, Joseph Marche Bertrand, has equally taken a decision in this light, prohibiting all commercial activities in the Uri division. That will be on the 7th of October 2018. All commercial activities will be on standstill in the Uri division. And still within the context of the presidential election, there is a possible coalition that is building up between Maurice Kamto of the Cameroon Renaissance Movement CRM political party and Akere Muna of the Now Movement, candidate of the Popular Front for Development political party. Negotiations are ongoing. At a press conference today in the nation's capital, Yaoundé, the campaign manager, Professor Maurice Kamto, said negotiations are on the way to establish a coalition between Maurice Kamto and two other presidential candidates. He cited the name of Akere Muna of the Popular Front for Development and the Now Movement, but did not mention the name of the second presidential candidate who is negotiating with Professor Maurice Kamto to form a coalition to go into the presidential election. And of course, Paul Eric Kinge, during that presidential press conference, equally condemned some irregularities in the electoral process, notably the indiscriminate posting of President Paul everywhere in major towns of Cameroon. He equally condemned the non-publication of voters' lists ahead of the presidential election. According to the law, he indicates that it was supposed to be published up till now, less than 3 days to the presidential election. The list has not yet been published. And on to this late story, Cameroonians are rushing to elections. Cameroon offices to collect their voters' cards. Those who registered but abandoned their cards in the branch offices of Elections Cameroon are now rushing to collect the voters' cards in order to exercise their civic duties come Sunday, 7th of October 2018 during the presidential election. Mimi Mefo now paints the picture at the Lekam branch office here in Douala.
It is Teachers' Day in Cameroon, but Rosalind decided to abandon commemorative activities to go for her voter's card. Seated under the scorching sun since 11 a.m. and looking weary, she's determined to wait until her card is retrieved. Rosalind, like scores of other registered voters, are here for a similar purpose. This elector explains that he was registered on the electoral list since 2013, but is now ready to take part in the election to bring change in Cameroon. I want to vote for change.
Il faut qu'on change. 35 ans quand même déjà, je pense que c'est beaucoup.
36 years is too much to be in power. The opposition like never before showed its strength. This is a never seen before campaign period after that of 1992 in Cameroon. He would rather go for a candidate who can restore peace in the country, he told us.
Rend les choses un peu plus difficiles. D'ailleurs, on constate de plus en plus que les gens qui sont inscrits en 2013 viennent aujourd'hui et retirer leurs cartes, alors que les cartes sont en souffrance à l'antenne depuis.
The Douala 5 Elekam district head says that the last-minute rush has rendered work cumbersome for them, especially now that assembling voting kits and carrying out last-minute preparations are the priorities.
Il suffit simplement qu'on vous identifie à travers votre carte nationale d'identité et que votre nom soit inscrit dans le bureau de vote.
He added that the registered voters with name on the list published by Elekam can be allowed to vote with their national identity cards. But the list is not yet available, whereas Article 97 of the country's electoral code says that names of registered voters have to be published at least 8 days to the polling day. A majority of those who came for their voters' cards are youths below the age of 40. There is no doubt about it. His favorite is known and should win the election, he says.
Mimi Mefo painting the picture of Lekam branch offices in the nation's economic capital, Douala, the littoral regional office of Elections Cameroon. Here in Douala, officials say all is set for Sunday's presidential election, and some of the officials took time to give some practical modalities to voters who will be streaming into the different polling stations on Sunday to cast their votes. And Emile Njofang spoke to Mimi Mefo. Take a listen. Emile Njofang, an official of Elections Cameroon at the Littoral Regional Branch of the election organizing body here in the economic capital, Douala, with some practical modalities. He gave some practical modalities to voters who will be streaming into the different polling stations on Monday to vote for the president, the next president of the Republic of Cameroon. Take a listen.
I want to cast his vote. He has to go to his polling station. At the entrance of the polling station, there is a list of all the voters, all the electors. So he has first to check his name on that list to make sure that that's where he has to vote. So when he checks the name, he then gets in the polling station and stop at the chairperson's table. The chairperson is supposed to identify the voters. When they identify him through his ID card or his voter's card. In case he doesn't have his voter's card, so far as his name is on the list and the name has been verified and his identity has been verified by the chairperson, he can vote with his ID card. So he leaves his ID card and goes to the next table to pick out ballot papers. He now takes an envelope, he goes to the polling booth. There he will make his choice of the candidate that he wants to cast his vote. So then he will choose one ballot paper inside the polling booth and put it inside the envelope. When he puts the envelope, the other 8 ballot papers, he put it inside a disposable bag that is there inside the ballot booth. So after then he comes out from the ballot booth, he goes towards the ballot box where he has to put in his envelope, an envelope containing the ballot paper that he has chosen, or the candidate that he chose. After then, he goes now to verify his vote. Means that towards the chairperson, he goes now and put his thumb. He put his thumb. He put his thumb on in front of his name on the electoral register. He signs, and they put in an indelible ink on his finger to prove that he has already voted.
Emily Njofang of the Communication Department of the Littoral Regional Branch of Elections, Cameroon, here in Douala, giving some practical modalities to be respected by voters come Sunday during the presidential election. And the Lekam branch office in the Southwest Regional Chief Town, Boya, the regional branch office of elections, Cameroon, is equally ready ahead of Sunday's election. It has already published a list of polling centers harboring the different polling stations that have been delocalized as a result of the unstable socio-political and security situation in the Anglophone parts of the country. But some voters are indicating that they will only come out to vote if their security is guaranteed. Derek Jatos more.
At the Elekam Southwest Regional Office, a booklet on the configuration of polling stations into polling centers for security reasons ahead of the October 7, 2018 presidential election is already out. The authorities here, we were told, are very busy with strategic calls, especially on security modalities, and there was no one available at press time to answer our questions. But from the information provided, Fako Division, for instance, will be having this new electoral phase. 24 polling centers will accommodate 147 polling stations in Boya subdivision. 22 polling stations will go operational in 4 polling centers at the level of Edinau subdivision. Limbe 1, 2, and 3 are having a total of 125 polling stations distributed in 22 polling centers. Moyoka subdivision with 80 polling stations will vote in 4 polling centers. Antico subdivision is having 11 polling centers for 126 polling stations. The Boya subdivisional delegation of Elekam, those who registered, are checking their names on the list and collecting their voters' card. And even those who have already collected their voters' card say though they are not eligible to vote, but they will only do so on one condition: if their security will be guaranteed come Sunday.
I'm still skeptical if I'll really vote on that Sunday, but I really want to vote, but I cannot risk my life for voting. If there's insecurity, I cannot go out to come and vote when there's insecurity.
They say the warning given by the pro-independence fighters calling on no election in the Southwest region makes the atmosphere uncertain.
Because it's not just only for you to come out and vote, but you need courage in kind of environment like this. So, and also it is important for you to vote as a Cameroonian.
At the level of Elekam, the ballot boxes and the polling booth are already set, waiting for Sunday, October 7, 2018, the D-Day.
And the president of the Divisional Campaign Commission for the Bui Division in the Northwest region of the country, as far as the Cameroon People's Democratic Movement, CPD, and political parties concerned, says inhabitants of the division are ready to cast their votes come Sunday, 7th of October 2018, despite threats from those who are fighting for the restoration of the independence of the former Southern Cameroons. And Fai Yengo Francis spoke to our correspondent in the Northwest region, Stella. Take a listen.
The presidential elections of the 7th of October, the situation in Bui is good within the present circumstances. We've done all we can. We've moved all the material around. Our populations are out despite the threats. I can assure everybody that the voting is going to take place normally. Beyond that, I want to encourage the populations to say that the key to the solution of the present problems lies in their hands. They should come out, they should brave it and come out and vote. And I think in the not distant future, all this would be an issue of the past.
Now we talk about the campaign of Cabral Libi, who has urged the population of the far north region of the Republic of Cameroon to assist him get to A to D by all costs so that he can bring change to the country. Details in this report by Fomi Armstrong Sander.
Addressing supporters and sympathizers at the Mawa ceremonial ground, Cabral Libi, candidate of the Universe Party ahead of the October 7 presidential election, capitalized on key points from his socio-political and socio-economic vision for Cameroon. The Universe Party flag bearer highlighted youth unemployment, a dream killer which has eaten deep into the Cameroonian society.
Agro-industrie, je l'ai dit, et la construction des infrastructures, 3 millions d'emplois directs en 5 ans.
Illustrating how hard Cameroon is hit by youth unemployment, Cabral Libi stated that agriculture remains a vast and underexploited source of employment for youth in Cameroon. But for this to be possible, the presidential aspirants say access to land must be guaranteed to youth in the country. A thing he promised to do when elected President of the Republic of Cameroon come October 7. In the course of his speech to the population of the far north region of the country, Cabral Libi reviewed a series of projects he plans to introduce to better the living standards of Cameroonians. Cabral Libi did not also fail to clear the doubt on his recent declarations concerning sound pollution. The candidate of the Universe Party said he has always defended the secular nature of the state of Cameroon and promised complete freedom of worship in his administration. Upon leaving the far north region of Cameroon, Cabral Libi urged the population of this region to vote in favor of the Universe Party on Sunday, October 7.
And Christians as well as Muslims have continued to pray for peace during, of course, before, during and after the presidential election on a Sunday. They have been assembling in different congregations and most to raise their voices in calling on God to intervene and prevent the explosion of violence, especially in the crisis-stricken northwest and southwest regions of the country before, during and after the presidential election, as Manjikan Gabriel reports.
The upcoming presidential elections and the deteriorating Anglophone crisis also troubles the clergymen and Christians, reasons why prayers have been organized in different parishes across Cameroon. At the Evangelical Church of Cameroon of Edea Town, Reverend Professor Henje Toya Jean Samuel and Reverend Beck urged their Christians to pray for a peaceful election come Sunday. At the Upper Plateau Parish of the Evangelical Church, it all began with a peaceful walk around Bafang before the church service that took place in the presence of a host of Christians. As they prayed, they called on the Almighty Father to restore peace once again to Cameroon, a nation that has once enjoyed the admiration of the world due to its peacefulness. It was a similar call that was made at Penja Plateau as Christians prayed for a peaceful end of the Anglophone crisis that has caused untold damages and displaced many others. The clergymen also prayed for a hitch-free presidential election come October 7th, 2018.
And in the same vein, the Secretary General of the United Nations Organization, Antonio Guterres, has called on all stakeholders in the presidential election to exercise restraint before, during, and after the election, as Cameroon prepares for presidential election on 7th of October. That's on Sunday. The Secretary General encourages all Cameroonians to exercise their democratic right and calls for a peaceful, credible and inclusive process. The Secretary General calls on all stakeholders to exercise restraint before, during and after the election. He also urges all candidates to address any complaints related to the electoral process through established legal and constitutional channels. And the Secretary General of the United Nations, Antonio Guterres, condemns all threats of violence or acts of intimidation by any group and reiterates that all grievances should be addressed through an inclusive dialogue. The United Nations stands ready to provide support in this regard to Cameroon. And now we're going to talk about a devastating and deadly fire incident that hit Cameroon's economic capital, Douala, last night, notably around the Cameroon Petroleum Depots Company, CDP, here in the economic capital, Douala. The fire incident was some a quantity of fuel that had been spilling out of one of the pipes from the Cameroon Petroleum Depots Company, and several homes were reduced into ashes, and some persons were equally burnt to death during that fire incident last night. The death toll and of course the damages caused by that fire incident is yet to be clearly established, as firefighters arrived at the scene and struggled to bring the flames under control. And teachers in schools in the city of Douala and by extension the littoral region of the country have been urged to ensure that they take a proper care of students and pupils who are coming from the crisis-stricken northwest and southwest regions of the country. This message was echoed by officials at the Beseke Valley Ceremonial Ground here during the celebration of the 2018 World Teachers' Day. Details in this report. 1 month into the 2018-2019 school year, pupils and students from crisis-stricken northwest and southwest regions of Cameroon continue arriving schools in Douala and other parts of the littoral region. During the celebration of the 2018 World Teachers' Day in Douala, the schools and teachers were urged to pay special attention to pupils and students from the two Anglophone regions in a bid to enhance their integration and performance. In classrooms, quarters, in the streets, should continue exercising his duties while paying a special attention to children from parts of the country in crisis so that they can rapidly integrate their new academic milieu and be psychologically ready to benefit from their rights to education, which nobody should sacrifice. Public and private sector teachers are urged to put in their best of know-how and efforts to deliver quality education, but their efforts are hampered by several challenges.
Teachers still have a lot of challenges which they are facing at this point in time, which will include lack of respect from parents and other individuals in the society. Teachers are still being looked down and marginalized in the society. And even in the classroom, teachers still have a lot of problems with students, as most often you have students who come to school without textbooks and other didactic materials which will help them in studying, and this makes the work of the teacher very difficult. And we are praying on parents that they should see into this and try to provide these materials to their students or to their children so that it will facilitate the learning process and make things easier for the teachers. The government has been doing a lot in the past years through subventions which has been given to private schools.
However, some of them acknowledge efforts of government to improve on their working conditions, but say there is still much to be done to guarantee citizens' right to quality education. that's it for this edition of the news on Equinox Television. Thanks for staying with us. Goodbye.